In this lecture, we'll try to understand the concept of theory of boundary layer. So previously we have seen the velocity boundary layer, and in this lecture we'll try to see what is thermal boundary layer and what are the similarities of the thermal boundary layer concept with the velocity boundary layer. And it is very important to understand this thermal boundary layer side by side with the velocity boundary layer, because you are going to get that one to one mapping is there basically between the fluid flow analysis and the thermal analysis in the boundary layer. So you can pause the video and you can see that what are the topics that we are going to cover in next few lectures on theory of thermal boundary layers. So let us first understand what is thermal boundary layer. As you can see that in the left hand side it is a picture where there is a flat plate and some fluid is flowing, and how the velocity boundary layer has been developed, that has been shown. And on the right hand side you can see if we consider a hot plate, let us consider this TS is a hot plate which is at a higher temperature than the free stream temperature. Let us consider the free stream temperature is T infinite, okay, and if Ts is greater than T infinite, then you will find a region close to this flat plate where there is a significant thermal gradient. That means that you will find a temperature variation within that small region. Okay, so after that position, that means outside this edge of this region, you will find that the temperature is almost uniform, and that is T infinity. So this region is called the thermal boundary layer, where the temperature variation is significant or there is a significant temperature gradient. And since there is a temperature gradient, so heat transfer phenomena takes place within that region only, because outside the temperature variation is not there. That is why the heat transfer is not taking place. So that is why this is very, very important to understand this region, that is the boundary layer where the temperature variation exists. And if you remember the velocity boundary layer concept, it is basically the region close to the solid plate where velocity variation was significant. That means the velocity gradient was present, and outside that layer there was no significant change of velocity. So this region, the viscous effect is important, and here exactly in a similar analogy you see the temperature variation is important here. Temperature gradient is present within this layer, and heat transfer phenomena is important. So you can make an analogy that here the parameter is velocity u, and the similar parameter, one-to-one parameter relationship you can find is the temperature. Okay, here it was the velocity variation. As you can see the velocity distribution, how it is varying, and here you see the temperature variation. It is clear in case of a velocity boundary layer, as you know, when fluid is flowing over the flat plate, there is a region just above this solid plate or in contact with the solid plate. It is called the no slip boundary condition. That means the fluid layers are at the same velocity at that solid plate. That means if the solid plate is at rest, that fluid layer will also be at rest. So exactly in a similar way, the similar situation you can consider that there is a fluid layer which is at rest with the solid surface. Not only that, it will also have the same temperature as that of the plate, and this is called the no temperature jump boundary condition. So here we have seen that the no slip boundary condition, this slip is with respect to the velocity u, and here it is the no temperature jump. That means the same temperature of that fluid layer which is just in contact with the hot plate or the cold plate, whatever that may be. In this case we have considered, for example, this plate is hot and the outside fluid is cold. Okay, so now let us try to understand the boundary layer thickness. In case of velocity boundary layer, we have seen the position which is away from the solid surface, where the velocity will reach 99% of the free stream velocity. That point, if we join throughout, and the locus of that point will form the edge of the boundary layer, and this particular thickness at a particular location is the velocity boundary layer thickness, or hydrodynamic boundary layer thickness, and we have given a symbol delta. That is the thickness of the hydrodynamic boundary layer. Similarly, in case of a thermal boundary layer, it is basically the position up to which, if you consider this temperature, let us consider the temperature at that location, if that is T, if T is the temperature at that location, then T minus T wall divided by T infinity minus T wall. So T wall, here it is given the name Ts, so you can also write Ts. I am writing T wall, so just make it T wall. So T minus T wall divided by T infinity minus T wall. So this quantity will be is equal to 0.99. That means here the temperature is 99%. This temperature difference will be 99% of the temperature difference between the free stream and the hot plate temperature. Okay, so these are the point where when this thing will occur, if we join those points, we will get the edge of the thermal boundary layer, and this thickness where the temperature is such that T minus T wall by T infinity minus T wall is 0.99, that thickness is called the thermal boundary layer thickness, and it is symbolized as a delta with a suffix T. Delta with a suffix T. So this is thermal boundary layer thickness, so this height. And one important difference you can observe between these two, here velocity is a vector quantity, that is why represented by the arrow, but remember the temperature is a scalar quantity, that is why it is represented by only the lines, or you can call these as the bar, and there is no arrow. Only the magnitude of the temperature is represented by the length of these lines. Okay, but there is no question of direction, so that is why the arrow is not there. Okay, after understanding the concept of the boundary layer thickness, let us try to understand that how boundary layer forms. So boundary layer forms because of the thermal disturbance that occurs at the plate at a different temperature from the free stream temperature. Here, as we have considered that T infinity is a colder temperature if you compare with respect to this hot plate, say it is at a T wall, which is more than T infinity. And so before coming to this fixed plate, you can see the fluid having the temperature is same uniform, and that is free stream temperature. Now as the fluid will start flowing over this hot plate, then the fluid layer which will be in direct contact with the solid plate, or sorry, the hot plate, then what will happen, that its temperature suddenly will feel a change. So it is a temperature or the thermal disturbance that will occur on this fluid layer. Okay, so this particular thermal disturbance then will propagate to the upper layer of the fluids. Okay, and the process by which this thermal disturbance will propagate from one layer of fluid to the other layer of fluid is the process called conduction, or this is basically the diffusion process. And diffusion is not only the responsible for creating the boundary layer, another thing is also dictated, that is the inertia, because the fluids always try to keep its own temperature, and that thermal inertia is basic, or the thermal storage will try to maintain its temperature. So thermal storage is directly related to the quantity rho into Cp. On the other hand, the diffusion is related to the conduction coefficient of that fluid, that is K. Okay, so remember this K is the thermal conductivity of this fluid that is responsible of propagating the thermal disturbance from one layer to the another layer. So in this way, somehow If k is very high, you can understand that the chances of this diffusion will be more, thickness is expected to be more. But if this rho Cp is large, so thermal inertia will be more, so chances of this delta T will be less. So ultimately at different locations you will find some value of delta T. So the formation of boundary layer, if you just compare with respect to the velocity boundary layer, the diffusion of the momentum disturbance here, instead of a thermal disturbance, actually the solid plate was creating the momentum disturbance because of the no slip at the solid surface. So that momentum disturbance actually propagated or diffused through the fluid layer by the property of the fluid, which was mu, and the inertia of the velocity, and that was maintained by the property of the fluid, which was the density. So mu by rho actually responsible for the thickness of the boundary layer, whereas in case of exactly in a similar way, the K, which is the diffusion part, but it is the thermal diffusion or the conduction, and the inner thermal inertia part is basically rho Cp. So the formation of the thickness of the thermal boundary layer depends on this quantity K by rho Cp. So once we understand this basic relationship between the velocity and the thermal boundary layer, and you will find that one-to-one relationship is there. Exactly the similar kind of phenomena occurs in case of a thermal boundary layer and the velocity boundary layer. Okay, so now you see that what was the objective in case of a velocity boundary layer analysis and what is the objective of the thermal boundary layer analysis. If you remember, the objective of the velocity boundary layer analysis was definitely to finding out what is the drag force acting on the plate because of the fluid flow, whereas in case of thermal boundary layer, the main objective of doing the thermal analysis within the boundary layer is to finding out what is the net heat transfer that is taking place. Okay, so the objective is to finding out the heat transfer is the main objective, which was the drag force in case of a velocity boundary layer analysis objective. Okay, and if you remember that we have expressed for that to finding out the drag force, we have expressed the wall shear stress, that means which is per unit area, what is the value, and that is changing from point to point, that is what is the wall shear stress value. Okay, similarly in case of a thermal boundary layer, per unit area how much is going, that is what is the heat flux. So you can actually in case if you remember, we have calculated the expression of the wall shear stress, and similarly here we are going to find out what is the heat flux that is acting. And if you remember, we have also defined a non-dimensional term to express this wall shear stress, and that was skin friction coefficient, or so that is we have defined both local skin friction coefficient and the average skin friction coefficient. Here exactly in a similar way we are going to find out the non-dimensional term that will represent something, you can say that this heat flux quantity is equivalent to finding out the convective heat transfer coefficient. As you know, the heat flux quantity is nothing but H into temperature difference. Okay, so here you can write this way, T wall minus T infinity, as you know from the as we know this information from the Newton's law of cooling. Okay, so it is equivalent whether we find out the heat flux or the H, it's all the same. So either heat flux or H, that might be our property, which is exactly equivalent to the finding out wall shear stress. Okay, and the non-dimensional corresponding to heat flux or H is the quantity, which is here we are going to see a quantity which is the Nusselt number, and similarly we are going to find out the local value and the average value of that. Okay, we'll see that what are all these quantities, but right now one more thing, that mu by rho was momentum diffusivity or the kinematic viscosity, as you know, that was responsible for the measurement of the thickness of the boundary layer in velocity boundary layer. Similarly, here we have seen that is the quantity called K by rho Cp. So K by rho Cp is called the thermal diffusivity, generally symbolized by alpha, and that is responsible for the thickness of the thermal boundary layer. Okay, so these are the one-to-one analogies that you can see between the velocity boundary layer and the thermal boundary layer. So once we understand the basic of the boundary layer quantities, different parameters, let us now find out that this heat flux quantity or this H quantity, it depends on which factors. Let us first try to find out that on which factors this quantity depends, because if we can identify the parameters on which heat flux depends or the convective heat transfer coefficient depends, then only it is possible to calculate that. So that is in fact the first step of the dimensional analysis. You know, when some physical phenomena is going on, first thing is that to identify that what are the parameters on which that physical phenomena depends. Here our objective variable is either heat flux or the convective heat transfer coefficients. Okay, so let us first find out that on which factors this depends. Okay, so to find that, let us first understand that how the heat transfer phenomena is taking place. Let us consider this is the flat plate. Let us consider this is the flat plate. Now the layer which is in direct contact, the layer which is in direct contact with the solid surface, the layer which is in direct contact with the solid surface is a layer which is at rest. If the solid surface or this plate, hot plate, is at rest, so this is also at rest, and this is what is the no slip boundary condition. No slip boundary condition that we know. Now because of no slip boundary condition, this is at rest. Now the heat that is transferred from the hot plate, which is at a temperature say T wall, then the heat is transferred from the hot plate to the bulk fluid, then definitely the heat has to be transferred through this layer of fluid which is at rest. Okay, so where the fluid is at rest, the fluid which is at rest, if we consider this is the fluid which is at rest, then definitely the mode of heat transfer through that fluid is nothing but the pure conduction. It is the pure conduction, because there is no motion in this layer of fluid. So if there is no motion, there is no question of convection, because we know that what is convection, because we know that convection is nothing but conduction as well as advection. So conduction plus advection, if you combine, you will get what is called convection. So conduction we can understand, that is the phenomena mainly occurs in case of solid. Actually it occurs in all solid, liquids and gases, but in liquids and gases, along with the conduction, advection or the motion of the fluid particles or the bulk motion of the fluid, that takes place. But in case of solids, that motion of the material was not there. That is why in case of solid only conduction takes place. But in case of fluids, actually both conduction as well as advection takes place. So advection is nothing but the fluid flow involved, fluid flow. Advection is a term related to the fluid flow driven heat transfer. So as the fluid is flowing, so fluid basically what they are doing, they are taking the heat from one region and it is taken to the other region. In this way they enhance the heat transfer process. Okay, so you can understand that if the fluid flow is very high, if the velocity u infinity is very large, then what will happen, whatever heat is transmitted through diffusion, that will be taken by that high velocity fluid, and that is why more and more heat will be able to transfer. So that is why this part, that is velocity dependent, so taken away the energy through this velocity, or taken away the heat through this velocity, is basically advection. So advection part is related to the fluid flow. If there is no fluid flow, there is no advection. Okay, so the fluid layer which is in direct contact with the solid surface, which is at a no slip boundary condition, that means the fluid layer which is at rest, definitely when the heat is transferred to that fluid layer, because heat has to transfer through that fluid layer to pass from the solid surface to the bulk fluid, then definitely the mode of heat transfer that will take place through that fluid layer is pure conduction, because this fluid layer is at rest. So definitely we can write that the heat flux, if we consider this is the positive y direction, then definitely that heat flux will be minus k into del t del y at y is equal to 0, because y is equal to 0 is the location of that fluid layer. And remember, this k is k of the fluid, because we are considering the temperature gradient within the fluid layer. Okay, so k is not the thermal conductivity of the hot plate. Remember, k is the thermal conductivity of the fluid. Okay, so this is what is the heat flux. And again, what we know, that this particular quantity is also equal to, according to Newton's law of cooling, is nothing but convective heat transfer coefficient into temperature difference. Okay, so that is T wall minus T infinity. So now you can understand this delta T is basically T wall minus T infinity. So this is the relation that we can write to find out heat flux. Now try to understand on which factors this heat flux depends. So first of all, one by one, let us study the quantities. So first is, let us consider the distance from the leading edge. So if this is the leading edge, this is the leading edge of the flat plate, and distance from the leading edge at any location, you can understand, if the length of the flat plate increases, definitely the disturbance, the thermal disturbance will be more and more. If the thermal disturbance will be more and more, definitely its effect will be that the thickness of the boundary layer will be larger. Okay, and if the thickness of the boundary layer will be larger, then that effect will definitely come on the heat flux. So we can understand that it depends on the length of the plate. Second, it is clear that the velocity, the effect of velocity, let us consider. So definitely, if the velocity is large, you can understand that the heat that will be transferred to the fluid, that will be taken very easily with the velocity. So definitely, if u infinity is larger, then heat flux will be also larger. So it depends on u infinity, we can understand. Third one, it depends on the different properties, like as you have just seen that heat flux is function of, heat flux is k into del t del y at y is equal to 0. So definitely it depends on the thermal conductivity of the fluid, definitely it depends on temperature difference, and it also depends on the delta T, because the y direction, the order of magnitude is the delta T, the thickness of the thermal boundary layer. So the thickness of the thermal boundary layer plays an important role, and it is clear that it depends on the thermal conductivity directly and on the delta T, and this delta T depends on which factor? Definitely this delta T, you have already understood, it depends on the diffusion, that is the thermal diffusion, which is conduction, and it also depends on what? It also depends on the inertia, thermal inertia. Okay, so if the thermal inertia is large, definitely this delta T will be small. But if diffusion is large, that means if K is large, then this delta T will be large. So it depends on rho Cp. So K by rho Cp. So it depends on, if basically then rho, it depends on Cp. So these are the quantities on which it depends, that we can understand. Not only that, it also having effect on delta. It also having effect on delta. So what is this delta? Delta is the velocity boundary layer thickness, because it has a direct effect on the velocity boundary layer, because we can define, we have already seen what? We have already seen this delta is, delta depends on what? Delta depends on the diffusion, momentum diffusion, that means momentum disturbance diffusion, and the inertia of the velocity. It depends on this particular ratio. And we have seen that delta T depends on what? The diffusion, which is the thermal diffusion, that is conduction, and the thermal inertia, which is rho Cp. So now you can define a property, material property, that is delta by delta, material property, which is basically we are defining this quantity is nu, and this quantity is what is called alpha, we know. Okay, this is thermal diffusivity, this is momentum diffusivity, or the kinematic viscosity. Now this quantity, kinematic viscosity, this is a fluid property. Alpha, thermal diffusivity, is again another fluid property, and the ratio of this fluid property is definitely a fluid property. Okay, so this fluid property is a dimensionless property, because if you just calculate the dimension, you will find that both having the similar dimension. Okay, so mu by rho and K by rho Cp having the similar dimension, and that is what you know is meter square per second. Okay, so both having the similar dimension, and so ratio of two similar dimensional quantities is a dimensionless number. So Prandtl number, this ratio is called the Prandtl number, and Prandtl number is a property of the fluid that you have to remember. Okay, so Prandtl number is a property, and which is defined as nu by alpha. So what is Prandtl number? If you just put the value of nu, that is mu by rho, and if you put the value of alpha, which is K by rho Cp, you will find it will come that mu Cp by K, and rho will cancel. Okay, so this is what is the definition of the Prandtl number. And for a particular fluid, this Prandtl number is constant. So if you see that, and it is clear that this delta by delta T, this particular quantity, that means relative boundary layer thickness of thermal and the velocity boundary layer thickness, that depends on that depends directly on this ratio, because delta depends on nu, delta T depends on alpha, so ratio of them will depends on this ratio, and that means that ratio, it depends on the Prandtl number. So if the Prandtl number is fixed for a fluid, definitely if the Prandtl number is fixed, then you can understand that if delta increases, then definitely delta T also has to be increased, otherwise the Prandtl number is not possible to be fixed. Okay, so Prandtl number of a fluid is fixed. Now if delta increases, that means delta T should also increase. Okay, so now you already know that delta depends on which factors. You know that delta depends on mu and rho. So definitely if delta increases, then delta T increases, and if delta T increases, you know that heat flux is related to that. So it is clear that delta having a direct effect on the heat flux. So the sixth quantity that we can write is the viscosity, that is mu. So this is another quantity, it depends on it. So now you can understand that these are the properties on which heat flux depends, and definitely heat flux also depends on the temperature difference. So if we just write that what are the factors on which heat flux depends, you will see heat flux depends on the factors like L, it depends on U infinity, or you can write in place of you can also write as x, that means the distance, that what distance this temperature, the hot temperature is there, so more and more thermal disturbance will take place. So x u infinity, then some fluid mechanics property like mu, rho, thermal properties like rho, you need not to write twice, then Cp, K. Okay, so these are the different properties on which heat flux depends, and definitely it also depends on the temperature difference. Okay, so now we can write that on which factors then H will depend, because H is nothing but what? Heat flux is equal to H into delta T. So delta T you need not to write, so H depends on which factors. So if we write F1, then H depends on which factors? It is x, u infinity, mu, rho, Cp and K. So on these factors basically H is going to depend. Now let us define another quantity which is called the Nusselt number. This is again a very important non-dimensional quantity, and if you just do the dimensional analysis, I am not doing the dimensional analysis because you know that how to do the dimensional analysis. First identify the how many number of parameters involved here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are total 7 parameters. How many fundamental dimensions are there? Check. So there are fundamental dimensions what? M, L, T, okay, and what else? M, L, T, and mu, rho, Cp. In Cp, you will find that the temperature is also there. So temperature is another one. Okay, so you can see if we write theta as temperature, so basically 4 fundamental dimensions are present: mass, length, time and temperature. So 4 fundamental dimensions are present, so minus number of fundamental dimensions. Where temperature dimension is there among these quantities, you can see in the Cp basically that is there. In the thermal conductivity, that temperature is there. Okay, so Cp, K, these are the quantities where you will find that temperature is one of the fundamental dimensions. So 7 minus 4, so there are 3. So there will be 3 pi terms or 3 non-dimensional groups that you can form. So if you do that, you will find that in the left hand side it will be the K, and say it is 5. You do one thing. So okay, then here you will find that another one is rho u infinity x by mu, and another one is mu Cp by K. So you are going to get these 3 non-dimensional group. So these 3 non-dimensional group you are going to get if you do the dimensional analysis, and this is the group that is called the Nusselt number. This is the group which is called the Nusselt number. Here HL by K, so L is, if it is X then it will be HX by K. Okay, instead of L, basically if you consider L then it will be HL by K. If it is X then it will be HX by K. X is basically the characteristic length, or the length scale of the system. Here for a flat plate it is the X that you are considering, and K is the thermal conductivity, H convective heat transfer coefficient. So this is ANU considering characteristic length X, and that is function of this quantity, you know, that local Reynolds number Rex, and this quantity just we have seen is nothing but the Prandtl number, which is a property. Okay, so now we can see that the local Nusselt number is function of local Reynolds number and the Prandtl number. And what is the physical significance of the Nusselt number? Let us see what is the physical significance of the Nusselt number, because already we have seen what is the physical significance of the Reynolds number. We have seen what is the physical significance of the Prandtl number, because Prandtl number gives an idea about the uh, kinematic viscosity or the momentum diffusivity with the thermal diffusivity, which basically indicates an idea about the hydrodynamic boundary layer thickness and the thermal boundary layer thickness ratio. Okay, so if the Prandtl number is very high, which means the uh, hydrodynamic boundary layer thickness is very large and the thermal boundary layer thickness is small. If the Prandtl number is very very small, which means the thermal boundary layer will be very large and the hydrodynamic boundary layer will be relatively small. And if the Prandtl number is close to 1, which means both hydrodynamic and thermal boundary layer of the similar thickness. So this is what is the physical significance of the Prandtl number. Now Reynolds number, you know the ratio of inertia and the viscous effect, and Nusselt number, let us try to understand what is the physical significance of the Nusselt number. As we have seen, the Nusselt number is equal to HL by K. So this quantity can be written in this way, that H by K by L, and now if you multiply both sides by delta T, so you can understand this gives a ratio. This gives the ratio of convective heat transfer divided by, or convective heat flux divided by conductive heat flux. So it's clear that Nusselt number gives an idea about that because of the convection, what is the enhancement of heat transfer in comparison to the conductive heat transfer. So you can understand this convection part. Convective heat transfer is what? You already know that convective heat transfer is nothing but conduction plus advection, right? Conduction plus advection, and at the denominator it is the conduction only. So it is clear that the Nusselt number, this advection is because of the fluid motion. And if there is no fluid motion, if the situation is that there is no fluid motion, but it's a fluid and there is no fluid motion, in that case the Nusselt number will be 1. So Nusselt number definitely in case of fluid is a quantity which is greater than equal to 1. And when this equal to will occur? When there is no fluid motion. So if you have to give one situation, example, when Nusselt number is equal to 1, you can consider that there is a pot in which, or there is a container in which some fluid is there, and it is kept in a place where it is one end is heated. Suppose this end is heated, then the heat transfer that will take place through the fluid will be pure conduction only if there is no fluid motion. But if it is kept in a container, definitely there will be no bulk fluid motion as such, but because of the buoyancy, you can understand that the natural convection will take place, right? So to avoid this natural convection, what we can do, if we put everything in a place where the gravity is 0, where there is no gravity, okay, so if you can do this experiment in a situation where there is no gravity, then and if you heat it, then you will find the heat transfer will be by pure conduction, and for that situation the Nusselt number will be is equal to 1. So Nusselt number is a quantity definitely greater than equal to 1, that you have to understand. Another way one can define a Nusselt number, and that technique is directly coming from the heat flux definition, that minus K into del T del Y at Y is equal to 0. As you know, this is what is the heat flux, and that heat flux can also be written as H into delta T, that is H into T wall minus T infinity. That we know already, we have seen, because of no slip boundary condition, pure conduction will take place through that layer of fluid which is in contact. So from here what we can do is that if we define a non-dimensional temperature theta, such that theta is T minus T wall by T infinity minus T wall, and if we define non-dimensional length y, non-dimensional y, that non-dimensional y is defined as, say, y bar as y by L. Okay, so basically we have normalized by dividing L. L is the length of the flat plate. If we do that, then in terms of theta and y bar, if you just express these quantities, then what is del T del y bar? So del theta del y bar, let us find out this quantity, del theta del y bar. So del theta del y bar is nothing but 1 by T infinity minus T wall into del T del y at y is equal to 0, and here it is actually divided by y bar, so we can write y bar is equal to y by L, so L will go there. Okay, so this is what is that quantity. Now next what you do, you just put this quantity, that del T del y bar at y is equal to 0 is what? Into H into T wall minus T infinity divided by minus K. So this is the value that we just put corresponding to this quantity. This quantity is H into this divided by minus K. So that we just put here. So if you simplify, you see that this quantity is nothing but H L by K. Here you see it is T wall minus T infinity, and this is T infinity minus T wall. So this minus will also cancel along with this quantity. So it will finally will be HL by K, or nothing but Nusselt number, as you can see, with L as the characteristic length. Okay, so Nusselt number can also be considered as non-dimensional temperature gradient. So non-dimensional temperature gradient. So non-dimensional temperature gradient is nothing but Nusselt number. This is another way we can look Nusselt number. So once we have identified the quantities on which it depends, like Nusselt number is function of, say, some function of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Next thing is exactly similar, that you can do some experiments, and through that experiment you can get a relationship, you can get some results, and those results can be plotted properly, and you can predict the Nusselt number based on Reynolds number and Prandtl number. This is definitely the experimental way of solving the problem. Okay, or what should be actually the next step? The next step should be, once you know Nusselt number, it is possible to find out basically what is the value of H, and that is the next step. So H can be find out because you know the Nusselt number and H relationship, that is Nusselt number is nothing but Hx by K. So you can find out the local convective heat transfer coefficient. That means H is not an average H, this is local H. That local H will be equal to local Nusselt number into K divided by X. So once you know this local value of H, then definitely you can find out what is the heat flux. So heat flux will be equal to H into temperature difference. And once you know the heat flux, to find out the heat transfer, you have to basically integrate this heat flux over the area and you will get the heat transfer. So this is what is the process by which we solve the problem. In the next lecture, we will see the scaling or order of magnitude analysis. Thank you.